and welcome to Welcome Home Radio. The waters in the mortgage industry can be pretty muddy, whether it's investing, leasing, renting, home insurance, or myths and misconceptions. Welcome Home Radio has the answers for you, the consumer. And now, to help you make the right home buying decision for you and your family, here are your hosts.
And welcome to Welcome Home Radio, where real estate lending and learning come together. This is your mortgage market update for February 3rd. And happy Super Bowl week as well. Stocks and mortgage bonds are relatively unchanged today. The ADP employment report shows there were 174,000 jobs created in January, a much stronger market than the 50,000 expected. Friday will also be the BLS report, and will come out, and estimates show about 50,000 more jobs creation there. Earlier this morning, the MBA released mortgage application data showing that overall applications increased 8%. Purchases were essentially flat, but 16% year over year. So a tremendous growth in that, and it would be even higher, I believe, if inventory was available. Refi applications are up 11%, strong growth year over year, and rates are staying strong and do not show any indication of moving up at this time. As we see inventory not growing and in some areas even shrinking, one of the ways to sell a home is for the owner to sell it themselves. Depending on who you ask, this is a growing trend or a declining fad, but they're called FSBOs, for sale by owner. Today in our discussion, we'll discuss the pros and cons of FSBO. And of course, joining me as always, my good friend and cadre and host, Alan Pace with Fathom. And of course, we have also with Fathom, Tim Russell, David Tanner. Guys, welcome so much. So glad to have y'all here.
Good to be here. Thank you for having us.
Good to be here.
Right off the bat, seeing a FSBO, I see this as a process for rebels or lone wolves. Is there ever a time when you see this as a better opportunity, when you go out and talk with a client, that you say, hey, go selling? Because the market is really in a flux right now. These are becoming somewhat more advantageous. People are trying to make more money. Do you ever point this to, this is what you need to do, or is it ever a good time?
Well, first off, you want to make sure, every client's different, but I like to talk to my clients. I like to know what their goals are. And, if they say they're going to do it themselves, then obviously I try to let them know the pros and cons of a FSBO, for sale by owner. And they're pretty basic. Most people do it because they want to save on commission. Okay. They still have their other closing costs, taxes, legal costs, title company costs, stuff like that, maybe lender costs, all that stuff. They still have some of that.
Well, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
You just said something. They're saying they're saving money on their commission, but it's only on the commission of the listing agent. They still might have to pay a buying agent. Is that correct? Or can they negotiate that out as well?
Well, it's the seller owns the home. They can negotiate whatever they want. They're the boss. And I've seen both. I've talked to for sale by owners. I have a buyer, I'm not dealing with you. I'm not paying you. If your buyer wants to pay you, that's fine. And there are people like that. But I'd say the majority of them, and I think maybe Tim and David would agree, will work with a buyer agent because they're going to want that paperwork done.
Yeah. Most of them will. That's been my experience. They're willing to pay the buyer's commission. Yeah, of course, it's negotiable, but most of them are.
Here's the one thing I always tell, what you try to do is talk about facts. And David and I had a nice talk yesterday about this. And what you can just tell a for sale by owner client right off the bat is just look at statistics, okay? You don't have to talk about commissions. You don't have to talk about features and benefits. Just tell them the median price of a for sale by owner home in 2019 was $200,000, okay? Meanwhile, the median sales price for agent assisted was $264,900. Okay, it's a pretty big difference. So you can't confuse a for sale by owner with somebody that's just in a money crunch. They just want to
That's
sell.
all your commission, right?
Huh?
That's all your commission, right?
Oh, you wish? Oh, yeah, I wish.
Yeah, we wish.
I've been retired a long time ago. I make 64 grand on this.
Yes.
But no, there's a difference between the people that want to sell by themselves and the people that just need to get out and are willing to give their house away to these investor types and these other people that say, don't do a repair, we'll take care of it, all that stuff. So there's two different kinds. Would you guys agree?
No, absolutely. And you mentioned the cost, the savings cost regarding the commission. It's not always just about the commission. You've got some clients and they absolutely can do this by themselves. You can do, with today's technology, you can absolutely sell it on your own. However, there's a lot of nuances that go along with that a lot of people aren't aware of. And that's where we come in, is to help educate them. But you've got some people out there that just simply want to do it because they can. They feel like, hey, this is my home. I don't need anybody to help me. And that's great. They can do it. But there are a lot of landmines that need to be sidestepped.
Well, if I could,
landmine can come in really fast. And again, you guys might have experienced this, but when you're selling a home and you're showing a buyer a potential, a listing, you're showing a buyer a listing, and that homeowner's there. Okay, we can't make the homeowner leave. It's their house. And by God, they'll follow you around and make pointers. Oh, I did that in 2015 and I did that, and which has no value to anybody. Okay, and that's the FSBO thing. They don't know. A lot of them really think they know what they're doing, but they don't.
Well, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask y'all some questions, and I want to get Tim in here. So, Tim, my first question is to you.
Okay.
A FSBO deals with a lot of emotions. You've got control freaks like me that I want to be in complete control, and FSBO allows that to happen. Is it a pro that is something, or do you lose objectivity? What do you see in the emotion side of the house, that control measure? Do you feel that, or what is your experience from that?
There's going to be control measure in either agent assistant or FSBO. So it's kind of a situation of, it goes back to what Alan was saying about a lot of people that, like you said, you're a very emotional person, so it's an attachment. And so I'm trying to just figure out the best way to word this, because there is an emotion regardless, even with agent assistant or vice versa, or them selling it on their own. It pretty much boils down to money. That's what it most likely boils down to. Like, hey, we're not paying you. We're not paying anyone, and we want to make all the money. Because as agents, our job is to make it as easy as possible for anyone.
Sure.
So that's pretty much our job.
Okay.
But there's emotion involved in both sides.
Well, David, I want to extend the emotion question a little bit more, and let's go to criticism and trust factor. Is there times that FSBO, that one of the cons, there's criticism of, hey, you're not handling, my home's not selling fast enough. It's all on the owner. Or is there a trust factor issue that they're coming across, that they don't trust somebody to do it the way they think it? What's that and that? And it's still an emotion,
Sure.
But you see what I'm asking?
No, absolutely. And that is a factor, especially if you've got a client that, say, they haven't worked with a realtor in quite some time. Maybe they haven't gone through this process in a while, or they hear things from their friends about, realtors just going to charge you this extremely high commission and whatnot. So it's just a matter of educating them. I recently going back to Alan and I's conversation the other day, I had one back in late 2020 that was a FSBO. Okay. And I sat down with this client and said, would you let me sit down with you and show you what I can do for you? And, once we went from everything from A to Z, they were like, absolutely. I can't do this on my own. They don't realize how much is involved in real estate. Is a highly regulated industry, as we all know anyway, and things change constantly. So this client was like, you know what? It's worth a commission to me for you to do all of this. And it worked out well. Now, does that always happen that way? I don't know, but in this case, it did, and the client was extremely happy. We got it sold, and everybody moved on with their lives.
That's good. I mean, I think going into the decision process, I think a lot of this, and this is what I'm going to try to come down to, is how do people decide? So we've talked about emotion. What about expertise? I see this fully on the realtor side. I don't see any expertise in the home for the majority unless there's a realtor is selling their own home. There is the strategy, the sales expertise, the contract, as y'all talked about, as well as the best thing that you guys do is negotiate. I mean, that's what I see is filling out the contract and being able to negotiate situations. You're the expert. And is there ever a sign that a FSBO is on the side of expertise? I see that as a con. Do you not? Would you agree?
There's rarely any expertise in a FSBO. Very rare.
Absolutely.
You get the occasional, I used to be a realtor.
Yeah.
You get the occasional real estate lawyer. And of course, anybody with a law degree is a realtor.
Absolutely.
So they tend to, but then again, over the years, I've helped just a bunch of lawyers. They specialize in litigation, or they specialize in mortgage, or they specialize in whatever they specialize in, but they don't know the first thing about the ins and outs of a house. And in the majority of people in the United States of America, the house is the biggest investment they have. It's what they spend the most money on. It's what they nurture. They raise their families. So it's a big deal. And I go back, I think Tim and David both said it right. When it's a FSBO and it's an absolute FSBO, they don't want any help from anybody. That's purely greed. That's it. It's money.
That's all it is, because it comes to a point where just with emotions and our expertise as agents, hopefully as they understand that we're their fiduciary and we're on their side. And that's what a lot of times it comes with that trust factor.
I agree. That's what I was just thinking.
Yeah. Well, you have to get them to a point where if Alan was selling his house on his own and he wasn't an agent, or David or so forth, or even you have to be able to trust one of us enough to allow for our expertise. Well, I don't know if you would trust Alan.
I'm teasing.
You can trust Tim all day long.
I think Tim's the only one I can trust out of this call right here.
Yeah.
Well, there's that. I like that old saying: just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Correct.
I mean, I could put my own roof on, but I don't think I would. It's not recommended. Okay, it'd take me 2 weeks to do it, more likely.
No, I could just see the flash news then. Realtor falls off rooftop trying to replace.
I mean, so yes, with you can educate yourself. I was in a store the other day. I think it was FedEx. It used to be Kinko's or whatever, and they had all kinds of material about how to sell your home on your own. I mean, there are books on there available. There are, you can buy all kinds of material. There's a plethora of it online. So yes, if you're willing to take the time and learn all of that, you're still not going to know what we know, and you're not going to have the security of having a realtor in your court, because things, like Alan said earlier, things can go awry really quick.
And yes, I want to reiterate to our listeners, we do want questions. You can find us at KVGI Media on YouTube as well as Facebook. Ask your questions, get online, but we'll be able to share this video as well. I love this discussion because I know it's going to help somebody understand. And again, you brought up, Tim, and I think everyone did, we go from emotions to expertise. Now let's go to the pros and cons of money. Let's talk down and dirty, because Tim said it. It comes down to all about the money. That's what it comes down to. And the bottom line is if it's all about the money, I like what Alan said about, well, what's the average FSBO sale to the average realtor sale in your neighborhood? And I know you guys have that data. I know it's available. I've dealt with them when the purchasing person is working with a FSBO, and I got to tell you, it's a challenge on our side because I'm so used to title being paid by the seller, all the Wait a minute, the contract's not filled out right. It's not complete. I'm having to ask questions. What about this? And then, of course, they're working. They're not at home. They don't have the expertise. But, of course, it's all about saving money. And when it comes down to it, to meet the closing date, sir or ma'am, we didn't get access to the appraisals delayed because you weren't available, because we couldn't get in, because, you see this? And it becomes, so talk about the money. Talk about where they're saving and where they're not, please.
Well, as far as where they're saving, though, it doesn't matter where they're saving. What they're really saying is we don't want to pay a realtor commission. So that's what that is. And that's in Texas, that's anywhere from 4 to 6%, just depending on whatever the deal is. But I will tell you, you said talk about stories. I'll tell you 2 stories. One, same story, 2 different clients. They were for sale by owners that I approached to try to list their home. This is when I first started. Very, very young, new realtor. Well, not very young, but new anyway. And I said, listen, I appreciate you don't want to use a realtor. I get it. But, just do yourself a favor and at least hire a real estate attorney to look over your documentation. I said, do that. If you don't have a name for that, I'll be happy to provide you with the number and a name of a real estate attorney. And shook hands. These were not friends. These are total prospects, and by God, both of them in about 2 or 3 days called me back and said, well, what do you mean? Why do I need a lawyer? And I ended up selling both those homes. So I always tell everybody, stay with facts, stay in your lane. Don't be a lender. Don't be a title company. Don't be a lawyer, be a realtor, stay in your lane. Facts, facts, facts. The fact that median price for sale by owners, $65,000 less than a median price for a home, says a lot to an average person. Okay, they get it. And then you got the other kind of folks that we've all dealt with. They're falling for the advertising going on today about don't fix your home, we'll sell it quick, blah, blah, blah. Well, those are ones that I guarantee you, both these guys and me, we try to talk people out of that. Because not only can they pay our commission, they'll make more money after they pay our commission. You should see some of these offers, Blair, that these outfits are offering. And really? I'm talking all outfits, whether they're strictly a discount place, we buy homes cheap, or they're attached to a real estate company somehow, or whatever. Those offers are not in our client's best interest.
Yeah, that's very true. You guys, Tim, David?
No, that's absolutely true, because a lot of people don't think that, and they see these other companies that are out there that'll sell them on a dream. And it's just like that whole thing of you can buy a $300,000 house for an $800 house payment. They don't look at the small fine print and understand that there are taxes, insurance, and everything else that is included in that. And then they see that. And it's kind of the same thing with FSBOs. They don't see that all the legwork that's done on their behalf.
Yeah. Right. It's interesting you brought that up. How often has it been since I've not seen anybody doing one, but interest-only loans. And people are getting into the homes that are out of their price neighborhood, but they're only paying interest only. And when it comes down to it, everything they're paying is financed like a lease car, and it's going to go back to whoever bought it, at one point. So yes, you can be greedy, but it sounds like to me, if you're going to be greedy, find the right realtor to sell it so you can be greedy, because you're going to spend more money and time. My time's worth more money.
Exactly. And I think the key too is to, when you come upon any client, but especially a FSBO, is acknowledge the fact that, yes, you can do this on your own. You absolutely can. But why would you? And then you go into all of the the nuances to selling to selling a home, because we've got the expertise. Now maybe they have some of that, and money is a motivator. Absolutely, we all want to save money as much as we can, right? But what is your time worth, right? How many times have you called a plumber or an electrician to come out, and maybe they were only there for 45 minutes to an hour, and you're like, well, why am I paying you this amount of money for you were only here for 45 minutes. Well, I'm paying you for the expertise, not the amount of time you were here. And it's the same thing with us. We can get things done so much faster because we communicate with everybody in the process. And if you work a full-time job and you're trying to sell this house on your own, do you really have time to talk to the inspector and the lender and the loan officers and everybody else that's involved? So, what
some people might think because they're working from home now it would be possible, but I just think it's going to be totally interruptible.
Well, especially if you've got kids at home too that are doing virtual schooling, that makes it even harder.
We need to flip it on to you a little bit, Blair, because the people that are watching this need to know the problems that happen with the lending side of it, like you mentioned briefly about contracts not right.
Yeah.
But you can probably tell some people in your own self, like, listen, these things are messy if you don't do them right.
Well, I've had two experiences with the buyer buying a FSBO home. I bought a FSBO home. My home that I bought 14 years ago was FSBO. And the biggest thing that I saw on that was, I said, if you're doing that, then you're the one handling the contracting. I want to see that. But then with my background knowledge and friendships I was able to negotiate it a little bit better, quicker, and he made his own decisions. So at the end of it, I couldn't believe it. I think you know where Plano is and Park and Preston. We were out to dinner at La Madeleine. That guy walked by our table yelling at us, "You took advantage of me. You did that," literally upset because he ended up paying for seller, title, the warranty deed, all of these things that we negotiated, but he thought he was selling his home, making a profit. He didn't have anybody representing him. I didn't have anybody, but I had friends that were like you in the business. The second time I had a buyer relationship, they were buying a FSBO, one, getting the contract, and then getting the contract redated and amended, updated. I mean, it was just a pain, but then they were never home for the appraisal to go into. Mm-hmm. It's like we scheduled it 3 different times. So that drew out the timeline. And really, we started negotiating. You're going to pay the interest extension on this, not the buyer. You're going to pay that out of your cost. And it just changing because they don't have the expertise. For us, it's challenging just because we know we're dealing with professionals when we have the relationship with the realtors. When we're dealing with people that may be lawyers, maybe plumbers and engineer, who knows? They don't have the expertise. They take too long, and it's a process. They don't know what to ask for, like finding a survey.
Right.
How hard is that? It's not that hard if you know who to ask. Title. Why am I paying title? Well, it's negotiated. If you want them to pay title, maybe, there's just different ways of doing it. I want to bring in one of the next thing, money we talked about, but resources. Now, to me, this seems a total con, the FSBO process, because the resources that you guys have access to from photo shoots, signage, advertising, relationships on the MLS, all of that, but yet they have advertisers that have websites for FSBOs only. How does that work? What is the difference? And how do you see the pros and cons of resources used to sell a home? And can a FSBO even consider catching up?
Well, by its nature, they can consider anything they want to consider. But no, they can't catch up. First off, if they want to know how much their home is worth, they're going to have to call somebody that's in the business to give them an accurate answer. Okay, you just don't, or you can go online and trust a source.
Okay, so let's stop right there. Is that something you guys charge for? If I say, hey, Tim, come on out, tell me what my home is really for. What's the value of it? If I'm not selling or I'm not doing one, why would I do that unless I'm wasting your time or we have a good relationship? Do you charge for that sort of thing?
I don't normally, but the problem that you run into is just like you said, hey, can you come and give me a value in my house? I need you to do a listing appointment. I do all the listing paperwork, and at that point, you're like, okay, well, I'm going to think about it. And you have a lot of those situations where they say, well, let me think about it, and then you go back a week later, and they have their house listed on FSBO. And it's just like and that's basically wasting people's time. And it's just like the person, like you said earlier, you want to be in control. And so you're in control because they don't have the access that we do as an aspect of the MLS and just different things to be able to pull comps and so forth, so on. So it is pretty much wasting your time.
I'd like to bring up a point here that I think is very critical to our listeners, that I think is invaluable. Please tell me the percentages of homes that are sold that never touch the MLS, that internally Fathom or internally to your network, you sell a home before it even hits the market because of your relationships, your resources. How often? 5, 10, 20% of the time? What is that percentage roughly?
I don't know the percentage, and you know what? I know that happens. I've not been anywhere near anything like that personally in all my years. So I know it happens, but it depends on the market. Right now, there's no listings. There's none.
Correct.
I mean, zero.
and you guys would
It does happen, Blair. I don't know the percentages. I know of 2 people right now that within the last, I guess it was last year, one sold their house to the other, and they didn't go through a brokerage at all. It can be done. I think it's very small, and I know in our world that they've recently made some MLS changes, so it's very hard, very almost impossible now to have these pocket listings that we used to have. So once you've got a listing, it's got to be presented to the general public. So it's got to be put out there, and you've got time frames that you have to meet as far as the advertising rules and whatnot. So I think it's a very small percentage of houses that are sold outside of the realtor world, but it is possible.
Well, right now, you guys would not advise a single person to not market the home because you're going to get 10, 12, 15 offers, right?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You're going to want the competitiveness of the market to help raise the price and the value. But you understand that.
That strategy is different in a market where it's not busy. You typically would put a listing out maybe below market a little bit, okay? And try to create a frenzy. Because in every market, people want what they can't have. It looks too good to be true. I'm in. I'm going to go for it. And then they get emotionally attached, and sometimes you can build that price up. In today's world, one of the things realtors have to do is be cognizant of what the house is going to appraise for, okay, unless it's cash. Mm-hmm. So that creates its own frenzy in a market like today. I mean, gosh, there's $300,000 houses now going for $345,000, $350,000, and people are putting in the contracts. My buyer will pay the difference on the appraisal, flat out. Well, that makes the seller happy. They just got overpaid for their house, and they're good to go. For sale by owner, they don't do stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
go ahead, Dave.
Well, I was going to say, and in this market too, it's kind of it's throwing people off because they think, well, how hard can it be to sell a house in this market as fast as they're going because the inventory is so low, and it's not just in Texas; it's across the nation. Well, here's the caveat to that. Let's say you're a for sale by owner, and you get 15 offers. Well, which one do you choose? Do you choose the highest, the middle, or one of the lower ends? It's not always about the price. You got to look at the financing. You got to do some digging, and I don't think most homeowners know how to do that or even know where to begin. So it's not that easy to just say, oh, I'm going to take the highest bidder and move on with my life. There's more to it than that.
And yet 98% of the FSBOs take the highest bid.
That's right.
And
they don't look at anything. It's just like with buying a car. They look at the bottom line. They look at that bottom number and like, okay, my car payments are $500. All right, that's what I'm going to go with. But it's not that's financed for 84 months. They don't care about that portion.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
I can pay $540 for 60 months. They just look at that bottom line, and that's the way that a lot of FSBOs look at things. And again, it comes back to that initial thing, greed.
Yeah.
It's right back to your story, Blair, your actual story. You're sitting at La Madeleine and the dude walks up and said, you screwed me.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you, there are buyers that get good deals from FSBOs because the FSBO seller doesn't know the process. So buyer got a good deal. Well, good for the buyer and good for you, by the way. You know, our job is to make people aware that we will actually pay for ourselves and more. And that's the job of us. You know, we have to talk that off the ledge because a lot of them are on the ledge. You know, they're lost a significant other, a divorce, or I got to get out of the house fast. I'll save my realtor cost and I'll just sell it cheap. You know, well, when you reword that, let me sell it, pay our commissions. I'll get you more than you would have got selling it yourself without the commissions. And I'll go right to your story. It's a net business. I tell every client I work with, be it seller, buyer, somebody leasing, whatever, this is a net business. How are we going to word the contracts? How are the wordings going to be on this particular deal? Bottom line is you end up with that much money. And that's what we have to convey to our clients, our prospects.
Sure.
Well, and I think something that we haven't really touched on a whole lot here is the security aspect of all this. Okay. So as a realtor, you know, Tim and Alan and I, if we get the listing, we're going to put a super lockbox on your home, right? So not just anybody is going to show up and want to see your house. They're going to go through their realtor, who is going to probably more than likely already have that client under a buyer's agreement. So they've been somewhat screened, right? If you're a for sale by owner, you stick that sign in the yard, guess what? You somebody may knock on your door at 9 o'clock at night. Are you going to open that door and let them come in and see your house? I hope not.
That's, you know, the security thing is huge.
Yeah.
It's a huge thing.
That's exactly, David. We drove by. They had their front door open. They were vacuuming the front living room, and that's exactly what happened. I went and knocked on the door. Hey, we're interested. Come in.
And it does happen. And I'll tell you, in today's world, I wouldn't advise that. I mean, because at least if you list it with us, you know, at Island Realty, we're gonna control who comes in that house because that super box is digitally records every entry and exit in that home. So that's a big plus.
Then there's the whole COVID thing on top of it.
That's exactly right. And that was and that's another big selling point for my client when we went through that whole, and I wasn't trying to scare them at all. It's just reality. And once we covered that, they're like, yeah, you're right. Let's just do it. You know. So
I want to. This has been very powerful. But I want to keep it moving. The thing that I think we haven't touched on, and this is the critical piece. We talked emotion, resources, money, but let's talk time. Mm-hmm. Let's talk how long does a FSBO stay on the market to how long a realtor selling listing stays on the market. I got to believe it's a slower sale process with the FSBO. I just got to believe that. I believe the data supports it. You guys know what to do. You know how to advertise it. You know how to get it out there. You know how to get traffic. I don't think they know how to do that, but put a sign out there and then possibly put it on Craigslist. And I surely don't want anybody from Craigslist coming in my home.
Well, actually, NAR put out some stats about that. I'm glad you asked because I'll just read it right off the sheet here. According to NAR's 2018 profile.
Who's NAR? Stop. Who's NAR?
National Association of Realtors.
Okay, thank you.
Of home buyers and sellers, 73% of FSBO homes sold in less than 2 weeks. The reason for the fast pace is that many of them are sold to their friends, okay, and family. So it's not necessarily a time thing. If the market's good today, all they're going to do is get less money for their house quicker.
That's a good point.
That's the only thing that's going to change. Yep. And I'll guarantee you, in a bad market, of which I've been a part of all the different markets, good, middle, better, and best. In a bad market, 2006, let's say, when the thing crashed, people were like asking for help, literally, help me, Mm-hmm. And so a lot of it's got to do with the market. And I would never, as a guy going trying to talk somebody out of being a FSBO, tell them I can sell it quicker, because I don't think the facts back that up.
Well, and not to advocate FSBO by any means, but however, if you're going to do it, please consult with you've got some realtors out there, brokerages that will do the paperwork for a flat fee. They won't give you any advice or consultation, but they'll maybe draw up the paperwork for you, right? Or at least contact an attorney, like Alan said, a real estate attorney. But
well, the one thing about what David's saying though is, if a realtor fills out the contract, it's the same as them being the representative, because we're bound by our license and all that stuff. So I don't do that kind of stuff, and I don't either. I know realtors not.
Yep.
They need a real estate attorney.
Yep.
Flat and simple. They might have a friend who's a realtor, so I'll do the paperwork. But something goes wrong, that realtor will get dragged into court.
Absolutely, and I would not advocate it. Yep.
Yeah.
So I want to summarize real quick, because I want to give you two guys time to, let people know how to get a hold of you. Pretty much pros. You may make more money on the sale. You'll have complete control of the process. The question is, can you devote the time to do that? The cons. I don't think there's much financial benefit personally that you're really going to make more money. I think you're going to make more money with a realtor. Marketing a home is not easy. And if you don't have an established network, that's what we're halfway paying realtors to do. It's hard work. Are the websites that are available for FSBOs effective? Do you have any data to support one way or the other?
I don't have any data.
Go ahead, Tim.
No, I don't have any necessary data that supports that. But in heart of hearts, I would believe no, it's not, because these are, again, it goes back to that money thing. These are things that real estate agents, David, Allen, myself, we all pay for to make sure that they're updated. And that's, people ask us all the time, well, why do you charge a set amount? Well, if you look, your house is listed here, 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 and here, and here. And you can only list it at Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. Well, that's kind of the way I look at it.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Tim. And I will say this, I won't give out any names or information or URLs, but I've seen some of these sites out there, and let me tell you, what you're going to find are a lot of iPhone pictures. You're not going to see a lot of professional pictures on these, for sale by owner websites necessarily.
They're not going to be welcoming, David?
No, not at all. I mean, again, we're most of our clients, we're going to have professional. I'm not a photographer, so I'm going to have a professional come in there and do those pictures. And not only that, we're going to do a virtual tour, which we've always had available, but now it's even more important with the COVID pandemic, because you've got a lot of people who are literally buying homes sight unseen. I mean, and they rely on those virtual tours.
And I wrote in just a couple of words really fast, the cons. Just the cons are analyzing recent sales, prepping it for sale, marketing, answering the phone, setting up appointments, fielding offers, and negotiating with the buyer. That's what we are experts at. That's what, for sale by owners, they're not good at that.
Can I add? I mean, I want to say it in another term. One con, you don't know how to qualify a buyer. But two, you're actually encouraging bargain shoppers and or the non-safety of your home, because you're not doing it professionally, as David talked about. And so I think we've talked about it. I'm not trying to close the door, but we do have a time constraint of sorts. I do want to give you guys time. Thank you again from Fathom Realty. Tim, why don't you let our audience know how to get a hold of you if they need to?
You can call me. My phone number is area code 817-819-8486, or my email address is Tim or T Russell at fathomrealty.com. Either one of those resources you can reach me at. Call me, text me, send me up a Superman flare.
Where are you at in 817? Are you
I'm in Tarrant County.
Just Tarrant County?
In Tarrant County.
And David, how about getting hold of you?
Yes. 817 319-6981, or you can email me at dtanner@fathomrealty.com. And I'm in the northwest corner of Dallas County, the Coppell or Irving, Las Colinas area.
Awesome. And Alan, you're always here, but go ahead and give our listeners yours, please.
Real estate ndfw@gmail.com, 214-906-4812. I have a Jeep. I will travel. The last thing is, if you're a FSBO and you're watching this, we can do a whole show just on safety. And Blair, we might want to do that down the road, buddy.
Yeah, we might want to do that. I think there's a lot more information we can dig up. Now, I do want to ask you guys coming back. We've already decided on our show 2 weeks, which will be February 17th. We're going to be discussing the new 1003. I think it's going to be really interesting, the differences that we're going to see. I'm going to try to give the hope of why they're changing it, what we really think is going to happen. But both of us are going to be affected by this. Why do they need to know this? Why do they need? So join us, follow us, like us, share us on YouTube and Facebook at kvgimedia.com. We thank you for your time. I'm Blair Thomas.
I'm Alan Pace. You guys have a great afternoon.
God bless. Take care.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.